Hey my beautiful souls, welcome back to Funny with Jessie, the life coach. If it's your first time here with me, my name is Jessie. I am a life coach and we do a little bit of everything on this channel, from organizing our homes to organizing ourselves to getting in alignment to living our best life. So you already been with me, a big welcome back, and you already know that we started a new series on narcissism, and today we're going to be continuing with that series. We are going to be speaking about how does narcissism get diagnosed, because a lot of people don't know that, and today we're going to be talking about it. So if you speak to any experts, they'll tell you, oh, be careful of labeling anyone and don't diagnose anyone because you're not an expert and yada, 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 yada. And I say yada, yada, yada because that's what it sounds like, and that's exactly what it is. I say make sure you are getting self-aware, because too many people are getting involved with narcissistic individuals and coming out of the other side damaged, broken, and left for dead. So if you need to diagnose someone, I'm here to give you a thumbs up on that, okay? With narcissistic personality disorder, there is no test that individuals take. It's just purely out of observation. So if you were to go in to get tested for a personality disorder, it's going to be more of going into your background, hearing about certain scenarios, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So today I'm going to be sharing the 9 traits that make up the diagnostic for people who have narcissistic personality disorder. So first things first to know about is that out of the 9 traits, in order to be diagnosed with NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, that is the short version of it, you actually need to have 5 out of these traits. So the first big one that they would look out for if you're being diagnosed with NPD is going to be a lack of empathy. So a lot of people get empathy confused with sympathy. Empathy is the inability or unwillingness to be able to identify with another's needs, feelings, wants, or experience. So when you have empathy, you are able to recognize and have the capacity, safe space for understanding someone else's feelings and experience. Basically, when someone tells you something they've been through, you're able to see through their eyes. You're able to put yourself in their shoes, right? You're able to think, oh, wait a minute. If that would have happened to me, how would I have felt, right? So that's what empathy is about. So a lot of people either have a deficit for it, it's literally not there, or they're able to completely shut it down, shut down the empathy out of feelings for self-preservation, right? So that is what empathy is all about. A lot of people confuse empathy with sympathy, and they usually get that confused when they see someone who's very sympathetic, right? There's a lot of people that can look at a situation and say, oh, that's really sad, that's really messed up. That's sympathy. Empathy is when you're able to actually put yourself in the other person's position. Something else people get confused is the different types of empathy. And we're not going to tackle that in this video, but I will get into it later on. But there's different types of empathy. Like you can literally lack empathy, but have cognitive empathy, which is the ability to be able to understand the feelings, but not actually feel the feelings. But that's the first thing that therapists and psychologists and things of that look out for when we speak about narcissism, is the lack of empathy. You'll find that these people are very cold, they're very detached, and they usually don't have a space to understand or want to understand where somebody else is coming from. So it gives them the ability to be able to run all over people, use them, abuse them, do things to them that is unfair, give them a lot of unfair treatment, and then just be like, well, what's the problem, right? What's the problem? I only betrayed you, backstabbed you, disrespected you, stomped all over your heart, stomped all over your feelings, your emotions. I took from you. I used you for, my benefit. But what's the problem? Yeah, lack of empathy. The second trait that is looked out for is grandiosity. So you'll notice with a lot of narcissists that they walk around thinking they're grand shit. There's no other way to say it. They're the most important person in the room. Everything revolves around them. Life revolves around them. Everything is about them. They have this sense that they're better than everyone, and everyone must bow down to the king or the queen. Yes, that grandiosity. So if you ever dealt with a narcissist, you will notice that. If you ever dealt with a covert one, it's very hidden, but it is there. It's behind the actions that they do. But once again, so the third one is they are preoccupied with fantasy. They live in a fantasy world. Basically, narcissists are delusional. They truly are delusional. They are obsessed with money, fame. They are obsessed with power. They are obsessed with control. They idolize people. They actually have this idea of a fantasy love, and when you don't live up to that fantasy love, they want to punish you and throw you down from, you know, the stage that they have given you. So you notice with a lot of narcissists that they are delusional. They are delusional. They live in a fantasy world, and they're preoccupied with all these grand gestures. These grand gestures of power, beauty, love, admiration, and basically they're living, you know, this pretend movie. They have like a pretend movie going on and playing in their head, and you are dolls that they want to manipulate to make you do and be what they want you to be in their delusion of fantasy. Yeah, that's a big one with narcissists. The next one, and this is my favorite one, I gotta say, and this is the way I usually spot a narcissist head on. So this is an important one that you usually see even with the covert ones, is their obsession with admiration and validation. Yes. So you'll find with a narcissist that they obsess with being either in the spotlight or having validation or a lot of love and admiration from others around them. It's always like, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's that kid that needs all the attention and admiration on them. So usually with the covert ones, it's a little harder to spot, but you'll find that these people are the people doing favors for everyone, playing the victim, playing the martyr, and having all eyes on them in the process. That's why they do it. That's how they get the admiration and their validation. They need all these people around them telling them, you're great, you're fantastic, you're wonderful. Oh no, you're beautiful. Who's told you that? So sometimes they'll use, you know, little tactics like that of putting their own selves down to see if you're going to rise up to the occasion to pump up their ego. Yeah, those are usually the covert ones. Ooh, boy, I got so many stories about those. But that's one of the traits of narcissism, is needing an excessive amount of admiration, validation, having a lot of people around them, which you probably heard about, but you probably heard the phrase of narcissistic fuel or narcissistic supply. Narcissistic supply are the people who pump up their ego, give them that validation, give them that admiration, put them in the spotlight, you know, constantly praising them, constantly giving them, you know, kudos for the things that they do for them. To understand, when you're constantly seeking validation, admiration, or acknowledgement, that there is a sense of an unhealthy self-attachment within yourself. Healthy people do not need to go around constantly needing to be admired, acknowledged, praised, love on, the attention of multiple people, having multiple affairs, or, you know, triangulating people just to get that attention. Healthy people do not function like that. So that's a big one, like I said, to look out for. The fifth trait is that these individuals usually think that there's something special and unique about them. So you might hear this come across in coverts as like, I'm very different. And there are some people who are actually very different. Their personalities are very different. But these people are not different. What they are is they're suffering from a mental illness. So that's why they actually feel different. Their uniqueness is more like, I'm unique, so I need to be treated as such. Most people who think they're unique or different don't require someone to excessively admire them or treat them with, you know, some type of royalty, like you're a queen or a king, right? So that's a big trait to look out for. The sixth one kind of goes hand in hand with the fifth trait of thinking they're unique, and because they think they are so unique and different and there's something super special about them, what comes next is they think that they have and need special treatment, right? So what does that come with? That comes with their entitlement. So that's the next trait that you'll find in narcissistic individuals. They feel entitled to everything. They feel entitled to your love. They feel entitled to your success. They feel entitled to your money, if you have any. They feel entitled to all types of special treatments, like the buck stops with them. So they feel entitled to special treatment that others basically have no entitlement to. It's like, oh, you have these rules. I know you have those rules, but those are for other people because I'm special and unique. So I deserve to be treated as such. So you'll find with narcissistic individuals, entitlement is a big, big one. And it's a big red flag to look out for when you're starting to, get to know someone. You'll find with entitled people that they'll deliver a lot of bad behavior. They'll actually treat you in disrespectful ways. They'll treat you like you're under them, or they could do better than you, or they could replace you like this, right? All that is a sense of entitlement. And then after they bring this treatment to you, they believe that you should make some type of concession for them and that you should actually just bypass it. That's entitlement. Another big part of entitlement is actually having unreasonable demands or unreasonable expectations on someone. So you'll find also what fits into the branch of entitlement is when someone has all these unrealistic expectations of how you should behave and how you should proceed and how you should speak to them, and things like that. Like I said, they're not giving you respect. Or, they can go out and have multiple, people and juggle multiple people. But if you were to do the same thing with them, oh my God, all hell breaks loose, right? And they expect you to actually take this type of treatment because they are entitled. But, of course they should be entitled because they're unique. They're special. They're going to come into your life once in a lifetime, and you need to understand that. Yeah. Entitlement. So the next trait you'll find with people who suffer from narcissistic personality disorder is that they have no problem, no qualms at all about exploiting others. So they have no issues using people as a pawn and manipulating them, taking advantage of them, using them to get a certain need or want that they desire. If they have to step all over you to achieve that nice bonus, they will. If they have to throw you under the bus to save their own selves after they did something wrong to you, they will. If they have to backstab you, cheat, lie, steal to get something from you, whether that's money, whether that's sex, whether that's attention, whatever it is, they will do it because they believe that their needs and their wants come first. They look out for them only, and that's all that matters. Whoever they have to use, abuse, step all over, and take advantage of to save themselves, they will do it. Not only will they do it to save themselves, but they will actually get involved in entanglements just to do it. It's like, I want this, that person has that. My goal is to get this. I don't care who I have to hurt. I don't care what feelings I have to break. I don't care what type of person I have to let down. I don't care. It's all about me. So you'll find that they're very, very, very explosive with exploiting others. The next trait that's used to identify narcissistic personality disorder is going to be a sense of arrogance. So already from these traits, you can see the direction it's going. And in order for someone to believe that they're entitled to certain privileges that they didn't even earn or they don't even deserve because they're not putting the work in, you know that they have to be arrogant. It's this haughty behavior that they think that they are above the rest, that they are better than others, that they're always right, that they're smarter than others, that they could do it better. You'll find a lot of arrogancy in these individuals. And if you've ever been around a narcissistic person and then you look really good at it, a lot of the times, a lot of people believe that they are stubborn. But when you dig a little bit deeper, you realize that they actually are not stubborn. What they are is arrogant, right? These are the type of people that when they're wrong, they refuse to apologize. They can know down deep in their soul that what they did was purely wrong or purely evil, and they will refuse to actually give you control. It's all about control. You learn as we go through this that everything a narcissist does is all about keeping control of the image, control of the way you see them, control of what you know, control of what you believe, control of your mind. Everything is about control. So if you ever known someone that's super controlling, you know how arrogant that is. Because to be honest, can we really control everything, including other human beings? No, we can't. But they'll try anyway. They'll try to outsmart you. They'll try to outbeat you. They'll try to outrun you. And even when all the information is stacked up against them to show them that they were wrong, or they made a wrong decision, or they did something wrong, or they picked the wrong, they were, wrong direction, they will still tell you what? That they were right, because they are arrogant. And that's why they don't learn and grow. So the next trait is you'll often find a narcissistic personality, a whole underlining feeling of envy and jealousy. These people are super envious of others. It could be envy of anything. It could be envy of your smile, envy of your happiness, envy of your success, envy of the way other people love you, envy of the way other people see you, envy of the way, people view you. They could be envy of your body, envy. It's just all underlining envy. They could be envy of your strength, envy of the way you communicate, envy of some type of power you have, or some type of trait you have, a characteristic trait that they don't have, that they want for themselves, and they envy you. You know that there's no space or room for that in any relationship. It hinders the relationship. How can you have a healthy relationship with someone that you are extremely jealous of? And it doesn't make a difference what the relationship is, whether it's parent and child, whether it's a co-worker, whether it's a friend, whether it's someone you're interested in, whether it's someone you're dating, whether it's someone you're married to, a family member, a brother, a sister, a sibling, a cousin. Any type of relationship where you feel envy and jealous of others is doomed to fail. Not only do they feel envy and jealous of others, but since they are the kings and queens of projecting, they believe other people are envious of them. So those are the 9 traits that psychologists and therapists and the professionals use to diagnose narcissistic personality disorder. Like I said, you have to have 5 out of the 9 for them to consider the diagnostic. If you watch my first video on this series, I spoke a little bit of the issues with diagnosing, narcissistic personality disorder, and why you don't see so many people that have it but possibly do have it. They're walking around and they might be your next coworker or your next lover, and you have no idea there's anything wrong with them, and majority of the time they don't know that there's anything wrong with them, because a lot of these traits, like I said in my first video, it's very common. They're characteristic traits, and a lot of people have this built into their personality. But what's different about a person who has narcissistic personality disorder is that you're not going to find all of them in someone's personality all at the same time. So something else that therapists use to diagnose narcissistic personality disorder is the regime of how all this develops. Like, number 1, it has to be consistent. So if these individuals have problems across the board, that's something that people look at. Like if a person who's very narcissistic, when they start having problems in their relationships, when they start having problems on the job with coworkers, when they start having problems with family members, like everybody's noticing or having an issue with this problem, and it's across the board from relationship to relationship or dynamic to dynamic or different environments within their life, that's a big indication that, hey, there's something wrong. So something else that the experts look at to diagnose narcissistic personality disorder is if the person who actually suffers from this disorder, are they consistently in distress? Like, is the disorder affecting their life? So majority of the time, this is a no. And this is a big hole in the way this is diagnosed, because people who suffer from narcissistic personality disorder, they're stressing out everyone else. They're not stressing out themselves. The only time they really start feeling the stress is when other people refuse to be controlled and refuse to be pawns in their manipulation and their games and their nonsense, right? That's the only time they really feel the wrath. But since this is such a big disorder and they use multiple people to keep their ego afloat, what they do is they just move on to the next person. They're like, oh, you don't want to play my game, or you don't want to be manipulated, you don't want to be controlled, well, whatever. Since they don't value people and they don't value anyone, they just move on to the next person, and they think they can do better and find someone else. And that's usually what they do. And they hop from person to person to person, not realizing that the issue is them. In order to diagnose narcissistic personality disorder, the issue has to grandly affect the person who's suffering from narcissistic personality disorder. So that person needs to go through uncomfortable emotions. They have to be, their anxiety and the depression has to be getting to them. They have to be struggling with coworkers and getting into disagreements with them or arguments with them. They have to get into issues at home with family members or their personal relationships. They start realizing that they're struggling with it. They start realizing that their addictions are out of control. So maybe they'll go through like gambling issues or losing money, or stuff is not working out with them in that sense. And usually that's how therapists are able to kind of dive in and say, yeah, this is a real issue, and you obviously, this is bigger than what we thought, and you might be suffering from narcissistic personality disorder. So basically the person has to feel shameful or trapped within their life or their emotions, or feel embarrassed, or go through periods of just like literally hitting rock bottom. That's usually when they'll go seek help. But a lot of the times, and a lot of people don't seek help when that happens to them. So this is a big reason why you don't see so many people who's diagnosed with this type of disorder, because a lot of people just ignore it. They go over and start bleeding on other people, right? They start making their issue somebody else's instead of dealing with it, or they just refuse to help. So 2 other ways that the professionals look at to diagnose a narcissistic personality disorder is, one, is it a long-standing pattern? Like, has this person always had these characteristic traits, and has it always been disturbing their life? One thing the professionals consider. The second thing that they consider is if these characteristic traits and these behavior patterns, are they coming out due to an isolated instance, right? So like if you just got divorced and you're like literally like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with myself, and all these ugly behaviors are coming out of something so life-changing, right? They're gonna look at that. Or let's say a loss of a loved one, and a lot of people don't know how to deal with those emotions, and they start developing behavioral issues and patterns that's not good for them. So that might be tied to that. So they look out for things like that. Is these characteristic traits and these behavior patterns due to something that has interrupted their life, and it's just tied to that? And once they get past this and express their emotions and kind of come out the other side, all these characteristic traits will kind of dwindle down, and they'll realize like, oh my God, I wasn't at my best self, or that was the best time for me. Narcissistic personality disorder is not one of those things that everybody gets diagnosed with due to some of the things that I mentioned. Like I said, a lot of people don't like to get help. They like to ignore their problems. They like to think there's something wrong with me. And since these individuals have a sense of entitlement, they're very arrogant, they believe they're special, they don't see these behavior problems or characteristics as an issue, especially when individuals enable them and give them chance after chance after chance after chance. That's why it's so important. If you are a viewer and you're watching this and you never experienced these type of individuals, or you might have thought you have experienced an individual like this and you kind of dodged a bullet, you want to make sure that you're very careful with second chances and ignoring red flags. Because trust me, once you get entangled with a person who has narcissistic personality disorder, it's not really easy to get out of their grips. And we're going to speak a lot about that on this series, because there's a lot of people who've been through this, and it has greatly impacted their life. I mean, it has really impacted their life. I have actually spoken to women. I am a life coach for women, so I'm going to, address women, but men go through this too. And I want to make that very clear. Women can also be very narcissistic, and they actually can suffer from narcissistic personality disorder. It's not a disorder that's connected to gender. It has nothing to do with that. But since I'm a life coach and I do it for women, and I coach women through it, then I'm speaking from that perspective. So there have been women who have lost their homes. There have been women who've lost their lives. There have been women who actually suffer from PTSD. There have been women who suffer from just mental issues just in general, or just trust issues, and it goes on and on and on. So it's not something to literally think like, oh, that's not a big deal. When you start noticing traits in an individual that's coming into your life, and you start noticing these traits, or you have someone in your life that has these characteristic traits, and it's been extremely difficult, especially on an emotional level for you. You feel emotionally just, you're just in distress. It's something, narcissistic personality disorder, the people who suffer from it, they actually hit the other individual on a sense of the emotions. They take them out of emotional balance. They start messing with their psyche. They start messing with, they just bring on a lot of psychological abuse. They actually suffer from verbal abuse, and some of them can get really physical, and so some women do suffer from physical abuse. So it's not something to take lightly. That's why I wanted to make sure that everybody knows the 9 traits that's actually on the DSM to diagnose this. And like I said, 5 of them need to play out in order to be diagnosed. But to be honest, if you're experiencing any of these traits within anyone, you should be able to actually sit down and have a conversation, and you need to be able to observe the way people respond and react to what you feel is a disrespect and a boundary cross. If people are responding in a disrespectful way and they don't want to hear what you have to say, that means they do not respect you. They do not respect you. They respect the value and the worth that you're bringing into that relationship, and it's something really to consider. So guys, I will see you in my next one, and I hope everybody has a beautiful and blessed day. Kisses and hugs to you all. And yeah.